Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stramaglio Show. Today, we are extraordinarily lucky and fortunate to have a Medal of Honor recipient joining us, and his name is Jim Doc McCloughan. And Doc, I hope I got that right.
That's good.
All right. And we have his associate, and his associate's name is Adrian Kozakov. And today we have an incredible opportunity to learn about Doc and his history and his journey to this point, and Adrian's involvement with a very special project that they've been working on. And for the audience, all of you out there, I learned something not too long ago because of Adrian and Doc. There are 61 Medal of Honor recipients who are walking this good earth. And it's an honor for us to have an opportunity to sit here today with one of them, and the story that they can tell and the values that they share and they live by, I think is something that every human being and certainly every business person can enjoy and benefit from. So, Adrian, I am going to turn this over to you and have you explain some of the purpose behind this call. And I would really appreciate it if you can then help me introduce Jim again.
Sounds great, Mike. And thank you. And yes, couldn't have said it better. Living by the values of the Congressional Medal of Honor, especially with only 61 living recipients, and Doc being one of only 45 still living today from the Vietnam War. And hearing their stories, it's truly inspirational. And once a year, there is the Congressional Medal of Honor Convention, which is a culmination of a celebration of the values of the Medal of Honor and ensuring the legacy of the Medal of Honor continues for generations well beyond us, and their stories continue to inspire and impact so many people, like it has you and I and so many people already. And this year is a special year. The convention is being hosted in Detroit, and with that, it is also America's quincentennial, 250 years of American tradition, American values, American valor, and so much more, where this year is truly an opportunity to ensure that as there are fewer and fewer recipients, that the legacy continues to live on for generations to come, not only in Detroit, but the entire nation. And with that, what an amazing way to pass that on with Jim Doc McCloughan, who is serving as the official Congressional Medal of Honor recipient liaison for the 2026 Medal of Honor Convention. And with that, I'll introduce Jim Doc McCloughan, medic, coach, Medal of Honor recipient, and Michigan hero.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Adrian. We want to come back and talk a little bit more about what you just shared with everybody. There is a purpose there, and if I could say it this way to the audience, we need help. We need help to continue to communicate and convey to everyone on the planet what a Medal of Honor recipient means to everyone, and frankly, the values that they represent, long and short, every day, 24/7. So thank you. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about how people can help. And Doc, it is truly an honor for this old Navy guy to say hello. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Well, I am so happy to be here. Thank you. And I still like you, even if you are in the Navy. You beat us this year again there at that football game, but played a good game.
Standing in front of people like you is an absolute inspiration. And I honestly, sometimes I get a little tongue-tied and speechless, even having the opportunity to be on a podcast every day, every week. But being in front of someone like you is truly something that is one of the greatest honors of anyone's life, and certainly mine. So I thank you for joining us.
Well, it's an honor to be with you too, sir. And we are much alike. We both served our country. A medal does not define anyone. A service branch doesn't define anyone. We fought for the values that this particular country has, and we're actually quite a compassionate military, because we go and fight for people who cannot fight for themselves. So that makes us you and I and everybody that has fought with us and has fought for their particular hometown, state, and of course their branch of the service.
So, Doc, let's talk a little bit. I'd like to start at a point because I'm personally curious about this. When you went up to receive the Medal of Honor, what were you thinking? I mean, that momentous, unbelievable occasion.
Mhm.
What was going through your head?
Well, about a million things, actually. My mother and father had passed away prior to me receiving the Medal of Honor. My father in 1991 and my mother in 2011. So I just could feel their spirit looking down on their son. And I was thinking about, I had 10 other guys from my company there at that ceremony, and I was thinking how proud they must be, because this is about them as much as it is about me. Without them, uh, I wouldn't have been standing up there. We each had a job to do, and they did it well. They did it very well. And I was thinking about what pride it is to be able to be in a room with so many military people. And I'm talking about, really high ranked individuals in that room and senators in that room, and to be able to share with them what my men had done, what Charlie Company had done on that 48-hour battle for New Yon Hill. It was a great moment for me to matter of fact, I've told people, most important part of the ceremony was when President Trump asked my men to stand up. that was that was really special for me, because they deserved as much recognition as anyone else in that room.
So, if you if you feel comfortable, could you give us a little bit of the story that put you in a position to be recognized as a Medal of Honor recipient?
Well, I think you must know this by now. It was 48 years after my action that I received the Medal of Honor. Um, I'll give you the short version. Back in the day, when we got done with the battle, my platoon lieutenant called me over and he said, "Doc, I put you in for the Distinguished Service Cross, but one of my superior officers told me that you're nothing but a private first class. They don't get that. Put you in for the Bronze Star." And I looked at him square in the eye and I said, "Sir, I am not here for any medals or ribbons on my chest. I just want to get home. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a coach, and I want to be a dad." Well, I did get that Bronze Star, and I earned another one. Came home, uh, and exactly 40 years, almost to the month, that lieutenant decided he was going back after the Distinguished Service Cross that he had originally put me in for. I said, "Oh, sir, you and we put the war behind us. You don't have to do this." He says, "No." And so it took him, I'm going to shorten it, it took him 6 years to get it from the Army Board of Decorations and Awards to the Army Decoration and Awards Board. And almost a half a year went by then, and that's when we found out that Ashton Carter, the Defense Secretary of Obama, had looked over the 9 eyewitness. You need 2 eyewitness letters, but Lieutenant had got 9 eyewitness letters, and he said no, the Distinguished Service Cross is not high enough, so he boosted it to the Medal of Honor. So that would have been in 2016. We still weren't out of the woods. In the Army, the Medal of Honor must be presented within 2 years of the action. Of course, um, it had been 47 years at that particular time right there. So Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters had to write a bill to be passed in the House and in the Senate to waive the 2-year stipulation, which they did, and it was waived. Obama was going out, Trump was coming in. So I actually have kind of a really unique situation because both presidents have signed it, both Secretary of Defenses have signed it, both Secretaries of the Army have signed it from those two particular administrations. It passed in December of 2016, and then when Obama came home, I knew he wasn't going to be able to give it because he didn't have enough time. So 5 months later, we finally got a call. Sheree and I got a call from President Trump telling us that I would be receiving, but we had to be quiet because they hadn't set a date. So 2 weeks later, I find this to be quite an interesting story. 2 weeks later, and I had never talked about, people knew I was in the service. They knew I was in Vietnam. They knew I was a medic, but I didn't talk about any of the specifics about my job and some of the things that I saw. So I was on a golf course, 5 minutes to 11, and these two guys that I had coached with were going to come and we were going to golf. And I get a call from the Pentagon. It was a lieutenant colonel who was actually in charge of Sheree and I. Zara Walters was her name. And she said, Jim, in 5 minutes at 11 o'clock, the President of the United States is going to announce that you will be receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor on July the 31st at the White House.
Jeez. I get goosebumps.
I said, thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Walters. I hung up and I called Sheree and I said, watch the news. I'm about to tee off. That's all I said. So she told me later that it had come over the station on, he had, whatever he does, texted it or something. And then, of course, the different stations picked it up. The two guys that I had coached with for 40 plus years, I told them I was going to receive the Medal of Honor. I'm a jokester, and they thought I was joking. Oh yeah, sure you are. That's the best joke you've ever told, Jim. I'm telling you. So I did get a call from them that night because it was still all over the television set. That's the process of how I received that. You would almost have to read the lengthy eyewitness letters to know the logistics. And or if you just read my citation, you would know, because that's what the citation is taken off of the eyewitness letters.
Incredible story. I get goosebumps like just hearing you repeat that story. Incredible. So how has I've got a million questions, so forgive me.
One at a time, please.
I'd be rat-a-tat-tat, so forgive me, sir. But how has the two things that come to my mind? You're a very successful coach. You're a very successful husband. You're a very successful human being in real life, if I can call it that way. Mm-hmm. So I have two questions. How did your service and or your award becoming, I shouldn't say award, you're a recipient of that award. How did it change your life? How did it shape your coaching, and how did it shape this part of your life?
Well, it didn't shape my coaching because I got it after I had retired from coaching. But it sure did affect those that I coached, because you can't even imagine how many people started calling me saying, hey, coach, why don't you tell us about this? Come on now. You were with us every day for, like, some of them for 3, maybe 4 years that they were on one of my teams. And I said, well, for two reasons. Number one was I didn't want to even go there in my mind. And number two, you wouldn't believe me if I told you anyway. So, and it's just like anyone else who has their unique experience. Unless you've been in their boots, unless you've been in their shoes, you can't fully understand what it was. But again, and of course, I got hit right away. I got hit with so many stations, one and this and that and the other thing. And of course, for the last 8 years, Sheree and I have, well, I'll give you just a short example of recently, from September the 1st until just before Thanksgiving, I was gone from my house 60 days. Last year, not this past year, but the year before that, around that's right around veterans. We call it Veterans Day month, not Veterans Day. I went to 7 different states in 14 days and spoke quite a few times. I would say around 20 or so. So it's really, and I write every one of my speeches. I just got done writing my one um, for you, Adrian, coming up here and on Monday next week. And I have, I outline it. Then I have a first draft. This actually had 3 different drafts because I wanted to play with it a little bit and put certain things in.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So you'll be coming out to Scottsdale, Arizona for the Executive Connection Summit, and we're thrilled to have you keynote for us. I know everyone, we're going to have 300 plus C-level people from all over the country and even other parts of the world. And everyone is looking forward to hearing from you and learning from you and meeting you. When you talk about your current life, and you talked a little bit earlier about values, the Medal of Honor values.
Mhm.
What is it that you would share? What does that mean
Well,
to?
we
Yeah.
have 6 core values that we are taking across the nation. It's called the Character Development Program. We teach the teachers. It's I believe it's around $1,500 for them to be taught. Then they get their own booklet. We have an elementary booklet. We have a junior high and high school booklet. Those have lesson plans in them. They don't even have to make up their own lesson plans. If they teach mathematics, it doesn't matter. They can still, maybe one day a week for 20 minutes or whatever, use one of those core values and teach the kids that core value. We've gotten away from civics in our educational system. So they don't do a lot of, there's more teaching to the test than there is, teaching a kid to have this the character values to help them through life. I often tell people when I came back from Vietnam, one of my missions was to prepare my students and athletes for their Vietnam. And they'll look at me funny, and I don't blame them. I said, I don't know what their Vietnam's going to be, but it might be their house burning down, their girlfriend saying she didn't love them anymore, maybe not getting into a college they wanted to get into. I don't know what it's going to be, but somebody prepared me to face a war, to face my Vietnam, and I want them to be able to face their Vietnam. I'll mention the 6 core values that we have because they're really solid. One is courage. The other is commitment. With my dad, a handshake was a commitment. Yeah, yes, it was. Citizenship, which means it doesn't matter which group you're in, your church group, your family. If these kids are in a classroom, you're a citizen of that particular group. We have sacrifice, to give a little something up so that the whole group can get what they want. We have patriotism, that they live in the greatest country. I wished I would have known what I know now from being in a third world country when I was growing up. I was grateful, but I would have been so grateful and so overwhelmed by what God had done for me to make me be born in the United States of America. And then the last one, which Jim McCloughan feels is the most important, it's integrity, doing the right thing. If you zero in on that with full bloat 100% commitment, then when it's time to be courageous, you'll do the right thing and you'll be courageous. When it's time to be committed, same thing, you'll be committed, so on and so forth. So I often tell them, look at that one right there, and then you got to know what courage is. It can be standing up for some other kid that's being bullied. It can be standing up for your beliefs. It can be standing up to whatever ailments that you might have and getting through those ailments. That takes courage. And so they have to look at their own self and how those fit their particular persona.
Incredible learning experience for sure. And I'm sure you're going to share more of that with the audience when you get here. And if I can, and I want to come back to something a little bit after I ask Adrian this question. So, how did you and Doc get together? And everybody has a purpose. You two gentlemen have a purpose for the project that you're working on. So, what is it that you would recommend? First of all, how did you meet Doc? And secondly, what's the message you both want to send to the 300 people we're going to meet next week and anybody else that we come in contact with through this podcast or otherwise? What is your request of people?
Thank you, Mike. Well, Doc and I first met in person actually at the National Defense Industrial Association dinner in Grosse Pointe, Michigan this past summer for the first time, where I started to get involved with this monumental, I would call it a civic duty to ensure the legacy and the values of the Medal of Honor don't die out. And myself, I have not served in the military, but I am a first generation American, I should say, that my entire family came over from the Soviet Union, Ukraine. And a lot of people today do not appreciate how good we have it here in the United States of America. All the opportunities we have. A lot of people take it for granted. And as a young first generation American, I thought God put me in this position and gave me this opportunity to help raise money and ensure the values and legacy of the Congressional Medal of Honor live long past the time that our only 61 living Congressional Medal of Honor recipients are here today. And now is more important than ever. I mean, as we're all getting older, we know Doc's going to be the one that outlives everyone else. That's just a fact. But we have 45 recipients from Vietnam that are over 70 years old, and the remaining 16 living recipients are from the global war on terror. So we are having fewer and fewer recipients every day that can continue to share the values of the Medal of Honor, continue to share their stories and inspire so many people. So we do not lose sight of what America is about and what the values of the Congressional Medal of Honor are about. And with that, too, the convention, we need corporate support. We need your support. We need CEOs to support, business people to support, like-minded leaders to support, and ensure that the legacy does not die here in the next year, in the next 50 years, in the next 250 years of America, where it's more important than ever now to ensure that these values continue to live on. And with that, the Congressional Medal of Honor convention in Detroit this year is coinciding with the 250th birthday of America, freedom, values, courage, sacrifice, integrity, patriotism, every single value of the Congressional Medal of Honor. But we need support in order to ensure that these values can live on and we continue to celebrate each Congressional Medal of Honor recipient.
You're an incredible young man yourself, and I'm going to ask Doc a question real quick here. But if I can add, I'm probably going to offend somebody someplace by this next statement, but I've always found, I mean, my family, it came from Italy. So we have, generations that go back to Italy. And I've always found or thought, and it's probably biased because of my own upbringing and maybe your upbringing. I mean, you came from Ukraine. And here in America, the Ukraine has a lot of connotations, right? Battles and fighting and all those things. And yet here you are, this fine young man coming to America, and your belief in America, which satisfies actually Doc's one of his biggest values. I've always found that people that come from another place, another place that is less fortunate, has a deeper appreciation for when they come here. So I don't mean to generalize for people, and it's kind of personal because I lived that and now you're living that. And I think one of the things I hope this podcast conveys to people, and Doc said it very well, we live in the greatest country in history of mankind. So I'm proud of you, and we'll make sure that along the bottom of the screen, people figure out how to process whatever it is, they want to commit to the program. So with that, I'm proud of you, young man. And Doc,
Let me add to what he said. As I speak across the country, some of my other concerns are veterans, active military, organizations that support them in all kinds of ways. We could sit here and name one after another, and nothing happens to those veterans and to those active military. The most important thing are the sponsors. The most important, it cannot happen. Nothing can happen to help a disabled veteran. Nothing can happen to help somebody that has lost their home and should not have lost their home. Nothing can happen unless those of us that have the money, can donate to that particular cause. And I'm so excited about, and Adrian and Russ and Valde have done a beautiful job of, and let me tell you, they're working tirelessly to make sure that this is going to be not only for the Medal of Honor recipients, but all those who attend, those support units that come. We would love to have, them come over. In Detroit, it's beautiful in the area that we're going to be in. It's just beautiful. And we've never had it in all of the years. We've never had the convention in Detroit. But
well,
yeah,
maybe next time I can talk you doing it in Scottsdale. But
there you go. And
Detroit's beautiful.
Adrian is beyond his years. He's a very mature man, and I just want to ditto what you said. I can't even know, although I was in a third world country in the middle of a war and saw the way some of those people live. He lived it. He lived it for years. He lived in a country that does not have anything near what he's able to get now. So he knows more than anyone. And I'm so proud of you too, Adrian. Done a great job.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're going to be in front of a lot of people through this podcast, and of course, when you come here next week. So, Doc, what besides the values that you just conveyed to everybody, what strong message? I think the world. Forgive me for adding this. I think the world needs people who can inspire good. And so, what? And you represent that. Both of you represent that. What's the one hope, wish, or guiding, the guiding light for young people today? What's that one thing that you want to say as a Medal of Honor recipient? This is important.
I want them to remember that of the 45 million who have put on the uniform in this last 250 years, that 1 million and I believe 0.7 have literally died for our freedom. As a medic, I held 18, 19, and 20-year-old boys in my arms. I heard their last words and I saw the last breath of life. Sometimes I thought it may be their soul leaving their body. They really, according to Reagan, I like the way Reagan puts it, they gave up 2 lives. They gave up the life they were living when they were killed in action, and they gave up the life that you and I got to live, but they never got to live. They didn't meet their soulmate and marry, didn't watch the birth of a child, didn't get to watch that child grow. And I coached my 2 boys. They didn't get to coach their child. And their little girl, they never got to walk their little girl down the aisle and dance that father-daughter ceremonial dance at the banquet after the wedding. And every holiday, every anniversary, every birthday, and every reunion, they're not there. They gave up 2 lives so that all of us that are conscious and alive today can have our one life with choices, like Adrian said, and we will have a free country to live in.
God bless you. Adrian, parting thoughts. I don't know how you follow that, but I think Doc said it very, very well. And we're both proud of you. So final thoughts?
I mean, you're right. I can't follow up any more than that, except God bless America. God bless our troops. That is all.
Awesome. So, gentlemen, it's been my sincere and deep honor to visit with you here today. Doc, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Same for you, Adrian. And I know everybody in our audience is going to look forward to hearing this and seeing you in person. So have a phenomenal evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you in 4, 5, 6 days.
I'll end on a final note.
You got it.
I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Wow, a cappella, and you hit it. And by the way, if you want to hear Doc sing the national anthem, you be sure to be here next week, because he's going to belt it right out of the park. Doc, that was awesome.
Yeah, I am quite often with that. It kind of surprises the audience a little bit.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And by the way, our best to Cherie. Thank you for walking the dogs and helping us out here.
Yeah,
And
she's not walking them because it's cold out. It's actually a heat wave today. It's 32 degrees. We've been right around 0 and below 0 wind chill index.
oh
It's
my God.
Last week we were at -32, and here we are at +32. With
Well, we look forward to seeing her and you two next week. So have a wonderful evening. And
Yes.
Doc,